Hey friends, welcome back to the Handyman Journey. My name is Alan Lee, and here we are all about starting up handyman businesses and growing your handyman business. So in this video, we're going to talk specifically about how to price handyman jobs. To give you guys a little bit of an outline what we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about establishing your hourly need, adding profit to your hourly need. We're going to do some market research and implementation and evaluation. And then to top it all off, we're going to talk about the debate between whether you should charge hourly or by the job. We're going to talk about what I think about that through all my experience and also through what other people think about that as well. So let's dive into this video. One of the most impactful things that you can have for your professional handyman business is a professional website. A website shows your potential customers that you mean business, and it sets you apart from your competition in many ways. I trust Jason over at handymanwebdesign.com for my website needs, and he always delivers top-notch service. HandymanWebDesign.com delivers the online results your business needs when it comes to professional-looking, mobile, and SEO-optimized websites. Contact Jason over at HandymanWebDesign.com today and tell him that Honest Lee sent you. Okay, so one of the most important things about figuring out what you should charge as a handyman is establishing your hourly need. So now there is a formula to do this, and basically it's fairly simple. So you got to sit down and write stuff out, right? Stuff doesn't happen when it's just all up in our head. When we actually start writing stuff down, that's when stuff starts getting clear to us. So I would encourage you, not challenge you, to sit down tonight and write out all of your expenses. So if you're thinking, and this also varies on what type of business you're going to start up, right? If you have a business that has 4 or 5 employees, that's going to look a little differently than someone starting up kind of a sole proprietor LLC thing like that. So you're going to want to sit down and write out all your expenses. And we're going to, for all these examples, we're going to go off the thought of you being a sole proprietor, because most handymen are out there. So if you are a sole proprietor handyman wanting to start up your own sole proprietor handyman business, you need to sit down and write out all of your personal expenses. Because after all, this is what you need to make in order to stay afloat throughout the month, right? So if you're a single guy, or if you're married and your wife doesn't work, if you're married and your wife does work, then things are a little bit differently, because then she might handle the mortgage, she might handle the medical insurance, things like that. But let's, for this case, say that you're a sole proprietor, a single guy. So you're going to sit down, you're going to write out all of your expenses. Your mortgage, your rent if you have that, what it takes for gas, electric, food, anything like that. Some of, typical expenses, right? Because after all, you need to make that much money in order to survive as a human. If you were to take a job that only paid you $12 an hour, but you needed X amount of money to survive the month, and that $12 an hour job wouldn't do that, would you take that $12 an hour job? I mean, yeah, if that's the only thing you can find and that's what you got to do, you got to cut other stuff. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your handyman business can pay you, because if it can't pay you, there's no one living to run the business. So that's one of the most important things. So you want to establish what it's going to cost for the business to have you be an employee of it, because after all, you are an employee of your business, and that gets into a whole other thing of learning about a business and business structure. And that I have plenty of other videos on that as well. I'll link that up here. But very important. And then second, you want to establish what your business needs per hour to survive. So that includes things like liability insurance, workers' comp if you have employees. That also includes things like licenses, uniforms, things like that. So you want to figure that out, and then you basically break that down into a whole monthly expense, and then how many hours you typically work throughout a month, and then you do some division and this and that, and then you come up with an hourly need. I have the exact spreadsheet on my website at handymanjourney.com. You could definitely check that out. Also, if you have any questions regarding anything about handyman business, go over to handymanjourney.com and you can submit a question there, and then we will answer those questions on our monthly live Q&A sessions. So the second part is adding profit to what you just established. So you've now established what your hourly need is as a handyman, and you want to establish profit onto that. One huge thing that people don't think about when they are thinking about charging or pricing out a job is profit and growth, right? So I always add a 20% unknown figure. That covers everything from growth and also unforeseen circumstances that happen throughout the month, throughout the job, things like that. And then I add 20% on top of that for profit. So now these figures are very important to get into your hourly need and your hourly wage. But you're going to want to basically implement that and evaluate it a little bit later. We'll talk about that. So the next thing you're going to do is do some market research, because if you have your hourly rate but no one will pay your hourly rate, then it's worthless. Then you're in the wrong thing for your area. So you're going to want to do some market research and find out what other handymen are charging around your area. So now this is very simple. Well, it can be challenging, but it's fairly simple in thought, right? So you just, go on Google, search handyman businesses around your area. And for me, I found 5 or 6 handymen around my area. I called all of them, left them all messages because they didn't answer, because, after all, we're handymen, we're out, working hard. So we don't have time to answer all of the calls that come in. So 2 out of those 6 handymen called me back. And one of them in particular had some great information for me. And that was really the root and the core of what my market research was talking to that guy. We are still friends, me and him. We still chat about, kind of what our monthly or yearly sales goals are for our business and things like that. So that's kind of fun. But just, talk to this guy and tell him straight up, There's 2 different ways. I mean, I do know people who, they'll call contractors or handymen and they'll say, hey, my toilet's leaking. Can you come out and give me an estimate? And they come out and give them an estimate. I mean, you could do that, but I much rather would just be upfront with people. We've also done market research on the back end. After we've had our business running, we've called particularly plumbing companies, because we were trying to figure out what they do about charging for going out and giving estimates, or do they do estimates for free? How do they run their service calls and things like that? So, and in that sense, we did the same thing. We called the plumbing companies and we said, hey, we're a handyman business from so-and-so and we're wondering about this. And some of them, most of them, are willing to cooperate. Some of them want to keep their trade secrets to themselves, and that's cool. Can't blame them. So market research is very important. And if you find out that, hey, your established hourly need with your profit comes out to $100 an hour or whatever, and your market research shows you that really your market can only bear like $50 or $60 an hour. Now, these numbers sound a little crazy probably to people like in the Midwest or things like that, because I am based in California, so things are a little bit more expensive here. So that's why it's important to establish it for yourself. If you ask me what it costs to put in a ceiling fan, and then you tried to charge someone in Minnesota that same price, they'd probably look at you like you were crazy and not hire you. So it's important to do these things for yourself. That's why I'm educating you, because I can't give you all the answers. It's important for you to establish your hourly need, add your profit with your unknown, and then do your own market research, because every market's different. And then the last thing on there is implementation and evaluation. So this is important because people, you need to hear this. People will pay you what you are worth if you live up to that. So if you're charging $100 an hour, or in some cases $30 an hour might be a lot, if you're charging that, you need to act that. You need to provide that service. So I always try and go above and beyond on everything that you can do. So act the part, live the part, be the part. Every single thing that you do has to show them that you are worth what you are charging. That includes your work, that includes your cleanup, that includes your referral process, your follow-up process, things like that. There are a lot of things that you can implement to make yourself more valuable. A lot of different things that are more than just you going and putting a nail on the wall and hanging a picture for. There's a lot of different things that you can do to increase your value as a handyman, and that's very important. So let's talk about this huge debate of should you charge hourly or by the job. Now this is very important, especially when you're just starting out as a handyman. I'll tell you straight up, most of the time you can make more money charging by the job, right? But at the very beginning, it's hard to know how long a job's going to take you. So if you go in and they have a kitchen faucet, they have a ceiling fan, they have some other lights, they have some pictures that need to be hung, they have all this stuff that you think, oh, I could probably bang that out in about an hour, right? So then you would charge them your hourly need plus your profit and all that. So whatever your hourly rate is, say it's like $60 an hour, charge them $60. Another rule: things always take longer than you think they should. That's very true. So factor that into your pricing and the debate, right, of hourly versus by the job. So I would say when you're first starting out and you don't know how long things take you or should take you, I would recommend charging by the hour. Now I know that there's a lot of people out there that would highly disagree with that because they don't want to kind of keep themselves locked down to an hourly wage because after all, that's not really self-employment thinking. That's more of like an employment thinking. When you're like an employee, you work by the hour, where when you're a self-employed individual, you're not necessarily working by the hour because you can make as much as you want per hour. So two different thoughts of that, but that's why I'm prefacing this with saying when you first start out as a handyman, I would definitely charge by the hour, at least for the first, 2, 3, 4 months, so that you get some jobs under your belt. Because if you go in and you got the kitchen faucet, ceiling fan, this and that, and you charge, and you say you charge it by the job, right? Say okay, $60, and it takes you an hour and a half, right? You really didn't lose that much money. You really only lost about a half an hour. That you're gonna learn from, So at the end of the day, when that job's done, you're gonna be like, oh man, I really should have charged more for that. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you want to charge by the job, you definitely could. But I'm saying if you charge by the hour, you're definitely gonna pad yourself more than you would have if you charged by the job. Because if you charged hourly and that same job took you an hour and a half, then you're still going to be making what your established hourly need is, rather than if you charge by the job. But it all depends also what kind of personality you are and how you learn, really. If it's gonna make you learn by losing that half an hour and losing that money, then by all means do by the job, because that means your personality learns best by failing. For me personally, that's how I learn the best, is by failing and losing. That's how I learn best, by losing things and figuring out how I can win them next time. So it's very important to do that. So this has been kind of a general overview of how to price handyman jobs. If you want a more in-depth look, there is a course over at handymanjourney.com that I would definitely recommend you take a look at. It really dives down deep into establishing your hourly need and figuring that out as well. It also jumps into things like marketing, establishing a business plan, and things like that. So if you guys have anything to add to this, and I would also love to hear where you're at in your handyman journey. So leave me a comment in the comment section below. Also, subscribe to this channel. This channel is The Handyman Journey, and we need you because you are the handyman that's on this journey. So go ahead and subscribe to this channel, like this video. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next business video.